first ever overnight backpacking trip. And the first thing many of you will probably think is like, why on earth would you do your first backpacking trip in the snow? That seems like a stupid idea. And it definitely is. But I thought, I like camping in the snow and the idea of being cozy. So that's kind of one of the cool things about camping to me, is the coziness factor. And how much more cozy can you be than being warm in the snow? Oh, by the way, I just got to a creek and I'm by this big aqueduct type of thing. So that sign there says Spaulding Trail. So I'm on the Lake Spaulding Trail near Evergrande Gap, California. Oh, it goes up that way too. So I have to cross this little stream, so I should do that with my trekking poles and put my camera away. I'm not wearing my gaiters, but this should be easy enough. All right, I managed to cross that without falling and dying. So it is supposed to rain and snow tonight and tomorrow. So I'm prepared for that. I have all my rain gear, and I've learned some lessons about staying dry in the rain. Like don't hike in the rain for very long because you'll get wet either from sweat or from the rain seeping into your jacket. Okay, so I've not done a backpacking trip. I've done a bike camping trip, and I've done a lot of car camping. Not a lot, but I've done a decent amount of car camping, so I'm prepared for some of the difficulties of having to bring everything with you. So the reason I decided to try backpacking is that I went on a nice hike a couple of weeks ago in the snow and the rain and misery, and I ended up wet and cold at the end, but it was a really nice hike. It's like 6 miles up to the town of a mountain overlooking Donner Lake. I can't remember the name, but that worked out really well, and it kind of gave me the bug for hiking more, which is something I haven't done a lot. My brother's always been a big hiker. I've always been more into biking, but I kind of started to realize the benefits of hiking is that you don't have to deal with a bike. There's a lot more places you can go, and there's a lot of places that are off limits to bikes, and it's just a chance to kind of enjoy. Sometimes in biking, I'm going so fast and I'm focused so much on fitness and keeping moving that I don't really enjoy the scenery unless I stop, which you end up not doing once you're on a bike ride because you kind of want to get your bike ride through and get to where you're going. So yeah, I decided to try getting a backpack, and this is the Hyperlite Southwest 70, which a lot of people watching will probably say, why on earth would you start with such a minimalist ultralight backpack when you're not that experienced or not experienced in backpacking? It's after a lot of research and looking into stuff, I liked the simplicity of this pack, and I wanted to stay light, but I'm not going to be ultralight. I do have some silly things with me that are definitely not ultralight. Like I brought a tripod in case I want to take shots with the camera. And then my silliest luxury item that a lot of people would laugh at is I have the Helinox light cot, which is only just over 2 pounds, but it's a huge luxury item for me. Sleeping is the biggest issue for me with hiking, with sleeping out and camping. So if I don't get a good night's sleep, I'm not going to get to sleep, and then I'm just going to be miserable, and then I'll be miserable the next day. So my feeling is, honestly, I'm kind of more backpacking so that I get to bring my cot somewhere and my wonderful quilt and sleep in them, rather than, that's kind of one of the primary reasons, is to bring this comfy portable sleeping setup. So I'm not going to sacrifice that, at least for this trip. Maybe I'll find out in the future that I can do without it. I do have an inflatable sleeping pad that goes on top, so I'm not just doing the cot. So very comfy sleep. I'm getting to some falls now, so it's getting loud. So let me try resuming this in a minute. You'll see these signs on the Pioneer Trail and the Spaulding Trail because PG&E maintains this area, and they are kind of covering their bases on getting sued in case like there's a deluge of water here or something. But it's a common hiking trail, so don't panic. You're not going to drown. Well, that explains the falls noise. This is the source of the falls. I'm not sure what this is called. You may well wonder why I'm filming this instead of just enjoying the hike. And that's a fair point. But it's just kind of fun for me to document this, since I will want to kind of look back on it. And that's the main reason. It's just entertainment value for me to be able to watch this back in the future and see how this trip went. It's January 2nd, 2026, so right in the middle of winter, but it's been, there's been some snow. There was about 3 days of snow before my son and I came here for the hike we went on. And the traffic was miserable then because everybody was coming to ski. So we had to take a side road, and it took like twice as long to get here as we wanted. But this time, no traffic at all. So that's going well. I got to my first real views of the lake. I just felt some drizzle. It's not really raining, but it's definitely damp in the air. So I took off my other layer because it's not very cold, but it is damp. So this is pretty. My only real worry at this point is the weather going to be bad enough that I regret staying out here and I just end up hiking back to the car, because it is supposed to rain a lot starting in the middle of the night. I just made sure my tent is fully waterproof by doing a Nick Wax wash with the TX Direct after the tech wash, and then I also double checked it afterwards and made sure it wasn't saturating anywhere. And then to make extra sure, I sprayed it with the Nick Wax TX Direct spray, so it should be very waterproof. So my tent should be good. My jacket's been fully reproofed. I've got rain pants. I've got everything I could sort of want to stay dry. But hiking back tomorrow, I'll probably still get wet to some degree, but I'll be heading back with the car, so that would be okay. But still decided I could bail on this if I really feel like it's going to be too sketchy. We'll see. All right, I've arrived at an area that I found on Onyx Backcountry that looked like a flat spot where I could possibly camp. There's a little bit of trees to block the wind, but I am within view of the lake. So this is only about 2.5 miles from where I parked, but I'm keeping it very low key this time just because I want to test things out. And I want to be able to be close enough to the car that I can go back if I suddenly get wet and cold in the middle of the night, or if the storm just gets so crazy that I don't feel safe staying out here. But this looks like a good enough site. It's flat. There was another one a little ways away too, so I've got some options, but there's always the possibility that I'll feel more safe heading back toward the car and camping closer. But I don't see any need to really go farther away from the car than this. I could, of course, explore more now that I've got a place to set up camp. Like once I have the tent and everything set up, it's still not super late in the day. It is just before 3 p.m., so I've got about an hour and a half to 2 hours of light left to set up camp and everything. I'm definitely hungry, so I need to have a snack before I do any more hiking or anything. But it's gone well so far. There's a little bit of snow up here, but it's not much. There will be more, in theory, tomorrow. But that's my main thing, is I don't want to get trapped in a bunch of fresh snow. So I need to kind of keep my options open in terms of when I might head back and camp closer. I have learned from a lot of backpacking YouTubers that you should not be afraid to bring a chair. I have the Helinox Chair Zero. And yes, this chair is very comfortable considering it weighs less than 1 pound. Oh, it's sinking into the snow, of course. The big complaint about the Chair Zero is that unless you buy the ground sheet for it, it does sink into soft ground and sand and snow. Oh yeah, this ground is really soft, so it's kind of hard to not have it just completely sink in. I might have to put it on the rocks or something. I guess I need to buy the ground sheet for this to make it work better. So props to Helinox I have their Chair Zero, I have the light cot. I also have 2 of their beach chairs, and I have a little table that I actually brought. Well, this is a pleasant spot. I gotta say, it's very pretty here. So it's only a question of the weather. I'll check the weather report again right now and see how scary it's looking. This is the small Helinox table that I was mentioning. So the legs just poke into the bottom. Super easy to get started with. And it's a neat little usable surface. I can put my drink down, I can put food down, I don't have to put things directly on the ground. So yeah, is this a luxury item? Yes, it is, but it's very, very light and super easy to set up and take down. So I kind of feel like it's worth it. And I could probably put my water bottle on the ground, but it's nice to have a little place to put my food and set down my phone or something. It just feels more like camp, you know, when you have a little table. So I'm going to have a snack now because I definitely got a little bit hungry on the hike, and I figure I can make better decisions once I've had some food and keep myself warm. Okay, I have decided that the smart thing to do is to kind of hike back toward the car and camp somewhere closer, just because I looked at the weather report and the wind is going to be gusts over 40 miles an hour. Sorry, I'm just checking to make sure I didn't forget anything here. Over 40 mile an hour gusts potentially, and that could go on and off all night, combined with rain, turning into snow. So I just figured maybe a smart thing would be to be near the car. So if the wind gets crazy and my tent gets blown over or something, or I'm just miserable and cold and I want to get back to the car and sleep in the car or even drive home, I'll have that option, which is kind of my tentative plan in the beginning anyway. But I wanted to at least get here and see if I decided that this is a much better place to camp. I think it would be in better weather. If we weren't going to have the rain, I think I would just stay here, or, you know, the wind and rain. But just going to be smart, go back toward the car. I should have scoped some spots on the way, so I do have to kind of find a campsite now, but I should have plenty of light to do that. So it should work out. This is a beautiful area though, I will say. Lots of nice stuff here. So yeah, it's prettier here with more snow than it will be back toward the car, but I'm definitely going to feel a lot safer tonight. So this is kind of a hiking experiment as well as a camping experiment. So I don't feel bad about going back. It's just a slightly different approach. And I'm going to feel a lot better sleeping tonight, knowing that I'm not 1.5 hours hike back to the car, because that would feel a little sketchy. By the way, for those of you interested in camera stuff, I'm shooting this with a Sony a7C II compact full frame camera, and I have the Sony 20mm f1.8 G lens, which is my favorite lens. That's the only lens I have on this little trip, so I can't really do a lot of zooming, fairly wide angle. And I have the DJI Mic 3 and have the little Peak Design capture clip to hold my camera on my strap, and that's worked so well. I used it before, but it's on a trip like this, it's great. I don't want to get my camera in and out of a bag all the time. And yeah, that's what I'm shooting all of this stuff with. According to all trails, you're supposed to cross here. This is a part I skipped on the way here, but now coming back I realize why I went the way I went. There's a bridge over that away, and it's a little bit awkward to get under the big pipe that's behind me. That pipe. Right here it's easy, but over there it's pretty narrow. But I'm not crossing this. Obviously, that would be real not fun to fall in that. So this is the tricky spot where you have to go underneath, which is kind of hard with a backpack. But it's about 4 feet high at the part where it's easy to go under. So not that easy, but I did it on the way here, and it wasn't too bad. All right, I have made another attempt at finding a camp, so I'm closer back to where the car is now. I think I'm within a mile, or maybe a decent amount less, maybe half a mile. And I found this clearing that's very marshy, but there's parts that are not too wet. So there's like upper raised parts. And I think I should be able to put my tent here on the snow so it's not disturbing the ground at all. And this wind is coming from the south, which is that way where all the trees are. So that should be good. And so I should have a very good windbreak, but I'm far enough from the creek that it's not like drowning out all the sound. And I'm not worried about the creek like overflowing, although there is water right here. So with heavy rains, I have to keep an eye on that. But this is where I'm going to try to set up camp and see how this works. The good thing here is if I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm wet or cold or something, I can get back to the car pretty quickly. So let's see how this goes. My tent's the Alto Summit TR2, which is a 2-person, really kind of 1.5-person tent. It can fit a 25-inch wide and a 20-inch wide pad together, but not two 25s. So keep that in mind if you buy this tent. Kind of wish I'd gotten the Telos, because that's a freestanding, and it's just a tiny bit wider at the foot box, so it can fit two 25s. But this one I found open box, so it was like half price, so I can't really complain. So I have camped with this Sea to Summit Alto TR2 tent before on a bike backpacking trip with my son, and we were both able to sleep in here comfortably. But with two adults, my son's 11 and he's not big, and so I think with two big people, these 2-person backpacking tents are really not meant for two large adults. So keep that in mind whenever you look at reviews for tents. People tend to mention that they're not. You always kind of subtract half a person from whatever rating they give you, or even a full person. So this, I think, is fairly can fit two people, but you just can't have wide pads. If the two people are intimate, if the two people are close to each other, know each other well, then yeah, it could work. Oops, no, I'm confused again. What did I do now? Oh, did I flip this inside out again? Darn it. Okay, getting oriented again. Let's try pulling this over loosely first. Pitching the tent is not the fun part. I do miss the tent cots that I would car camp with, where I could just flip it open and there's a tent. This is not, frustrating or anything. It's just I'm glad I'm not doing this in the dark or the rain. I'm sure I'll have to take it down in the rain tomorrow, so let's delay that misery as much as we can, shall we? That came unclipped again. We have a tent. Okay, I'd say I'm sufficiently cold now to test out my gear. So it's 38 degrees right now, but the feels like temperature is like 28. But it's not brutal. I probably should put base layers on under my pants, because that's the only part of me that's really cold. So this is my Zenbivy quilt. Got the REI Helix mattress inflatable under that, and then the Helix cot light. The nice thing about this on uneven ground like this, where I'm on the snow, is that I don't have to find a perfectly flat area of ground. So it works great right here, because this ground is definitely not level. I did make sure the cot itself is level, so that's good. But I don't have to worry about getting everything perfectly flat everywhere. All right, I'm very cozy in my tent now. It's hard to overstate how cozy the tent situation is. It's not drastically warmer in here, but if there was a breeze that picked up, it would make a huge difference, because there's no wind coming through. By the way, I just heard a train passing in the distance, and I always find that comforting, especially when you feel like you're kind of remote. It's nice to know that civilization exists still. Some people are going for the opposite. I know they want to get as far from everything as possible, but I like that feeling that there's still humans in existence, somewhere. I really feel good that I have a lot of dry sacks. I have this little ditty bag that I bought from Zenbivy when I bought my other stuff, because they had a big sale. I just bought a few dry sacks from a guy on Facebook Marketplace. So I've got a few of these Sea to Summit dry bags. They're all waterproof, and they're like stuff sacks, but I got little, medium, bigger, and then I've got a 30-liter, something like that, that's inside my backpack. Maybe it's bigger than a 30-liter, it doesn't say on the thing. So that's become my pack liner. And I'm really happy I got all those, because now I've got all these options. When I'm in the tent, I can still put all my clothes into a dry bag. So I've got one dry bag with just clothes in it. I've got another one with other items that need to be kept dry. So it's just a really nice confidence builder when you're going to be in a rainstorm, to know that even if my tent starts leaking, There's the train horn. I don't know if it comes through on the mic, but the train. That's very comforting. I will say, now that I have camp set up, I feel pretty comfortable here. When I was on the move, it felt kind of uncertain because you think you still have all this stuff to do. You have to set up camp, you have to eat. Now that I've got everything set up and I know everything's out of the rain and all my gear is working the way I wanted to, it's an empowering sort of feeling. And I've heard about that with people who camp, that you build confidence as you deal with more situations and you find out that your gear works and you find out that your tent works and you find out you can sleep comfortably and you can stay warm. So this turned out to be a learning experience. Those are not always great, but this one I think is a useful one. So my tent did not stop the water from coming in. So despite doing Nikwax Tech Wash and then Nikwax TX Direct, and then doing it again with the spray, and I followed the directions through all these, by the way. I made sure to follow all the directions correctly. The tent still was leaking. So I was in bed from like 8:30 to 10:30 and then reached my hand out and felt a bunch of water on top of my quilt. So I kind of laid there for a minute. I was also finally really getting like nice and toasty and warm and comfortable and ready to fall asleep, and then realized I can't stay here. So it started raining a little after 8 o'clock. It was supposed to not rain until 11. Kind of glad it rained earlier, because then that meant that I found this out sooner, because I would rather have not found this out at like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. But after laying there for a minute, I realized I better pack up and get out of here, because it's just going to keep dripping on me, and pretty soon the down comforter is not going to do its job. So I'm just going to end up really cold, and then I'm going to have to leave when I'm really cold and everything's wet. So that's going to be way worse. So very glad that I made the conservative decision of coming back and camping a half a mile from the car, because even though packing up wasn't super fun, it worked. I was able to kind of pack up everything inside the tent, keep everything basically dry, and then put everything in the backpack, take the backpack out of the tent with everything all waterproofed, then tear the tent down and threw the tent and everything in the outside pockets of my backpack. So I moved all the stuff that was in the outside pockets to the inside so that I could just throw the tent in the outside pockets. I was not about to roll the tent up and pack it in its little stuff sacks. So yeah, that was kind of unpleasant, but oh, and you can hear how heavy the rain is now. I think it's actually heavier than it was when I was out there, so I would have been in real trouble. So after I packed up, I hiked back. The hike was actually pretty pleasant because I just got the Gore-Tex gloves, I had my new rain jacket, I had new rain pants. Everything stayed dry and warm. My boots are really good. So that was actually pretty nice, because I felt like I'm staying dry. There's a massive tree that fell on the trail, like a really big tree. So I'll have to go back in the morning, assuming I stay all night here in the car. I have to go back and get a picture of that, because I couldn't really get my phone out with my mittens on and everything. When I first got in the quilt, I think I made the mistake of having my feet on the floor of the tent a lot with just socks on. And there was snow under that. So that made me feel pretty cold on my feet. And I think I should have really gotten up and moved more before I got in the tent, because my feet were cold for quite some time. And the only way I could really fix it was to just move my feet and calves and toes like for 10 minutes straight, just try to get them going. But it took quite a while to get my feet warm. But once they were warm, they felt pretty good. So I don't think it's a case where the quilt doesn't work. I think it's just a case of me not getting warm enough before I got in. So now I have the bed set up in here. I'm going to try to go to bed and see how I feel sleeping in the cold car. Well, I survived in the car overnight, and so I'm taking a little hike the next morning. Yeah, this tree was not here on my way in yesterday, and it was here when I came back. So, oops. That's pretty bad. Again, it made me think twice about camping near trees when that storm was happening. So yeah, regarding my tent, I don't really blame Sea to Summit, because I bought that tent technically used at Sports Basement about 3 years ago. So I don't know if it was abused before I got it. And since I've had it, I've used it like a half dozen times, usually not in severe weather, but I did leave it out in the rain for a couple days the other day to test it out. And Apparently the PU treatment on an older tent like that, or it's not that old, but it can wear out, and I have kept it in my garage, which gets pretty hot because I live in Sacramento, where we get over 100 degrees very often in the summer. So I looked it up, and that can potentially degrade the PU layer. So maybe that's partially why it failed on me. But I don't really think it's necessarily the company's fault. I could replace that fly, or most likely I'd look at another tent. I think it's raining enough that I will go back to the car and probably head home. All right, the weather's bad enough out there. It's kind of sleeting and everything, so I'm gonna get ready to head back. But I did learn something interesting about my cold feet. I realized it was definitely seemed to be a circulation issue, because I noticed when I was camping in the car, my feet were cold again, and I had 2 pairs of socks plus my base layer over that. And I realized it was kind of constricting the blood flow to my feet and even my calves. So my whole kind of lower legs were cold. So I thought, why don't I try just taking the socks off? So I actually took both my socks off and then wrapped a jacket around them, and my feet got warm pretty quickly. So it was clearly a case where I was over constricting by having the tight socks on. Thanks for sticking with me through my little adventure, and it wasn't that bad. It was kind of enjoyable in a lot of ways. So yeah, I'll try it again with a better tent.